back to another great episode of Just Be You podcast, where we're talking about self-development and just learning how to be you. I am your host, Delia, and I am so excited today because today we are going to hear from one of my really good childhood friends. I don't know, this is like a tone that we're having. Last week we heard from Excel. This week we got Vivian on the show. And I just love our reconnection story. I mean, I'll tell you a little bit about that later on in the episode, but I'm just so excited to have her here. She has her own HR company, and that blew my mind. I'm like, and I'm just so proud to have her here. We're talking about leadership presence, and I just can't wait for you guys to hear the conversation. Before we get into all those details, please like, share, and follow the show. I'm on Instagram at Motivation with D. You can follow the show on Facebook at facebook.com/justbeyou. And let's just get into it. Vivian, how are you doing today? This has been like a project in the making, and I'm so hyped about it.
Hey girl, hey, I am so happy. Thank you for just inviting me on and getting a chance to kind of share a special sparkle with the world. Like, I can't believe that I'm all the way in Denver and you're all the way on the East Coast and having, grown up together and whatevs. And I know you're going to get into the story later on, but yeah, we were meant to be here. We were meant to be right here in this moment. And I love this for you. I love this platform for you because I feel like you have such a spirit and such a message that this was bound to be in your future. So just happy for you and happy that we get to sit here together. Again, Vivian Hernandez, for all of those who are joining in or tuning in, pronouns she, her. And yeah, I'm excited to lead Opt to Work in our human resource support services and getting to help clients and employees just do HR the right way, I guess. That's my elevator pitch, is like, hey, what's your story about HR? I do HR differently. I'm a divergent HR leader, and I love being able to connect just policies and people. So yeah,
very cool.
I'm glad. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, absolutely. And this is one of the things, like, since we reconnected, I don't even know if I've asked you, what actually led you to doing HR? Was there something that you saw from your own working experience that you were like, yeah, no, I can do this a hell of a lot better?
Yeah. So I'll give you the condensed version because the the long version includes starting work at 14. I was tall enough to pass by 18, but we're not gonna sit here and get myself in trouble now. No, I remember sending my first paycheck on a pair of Jordans for my brother. That was amazing. In Puerto Rico, the minimum wage back then was like $5.25, and my first paycheck, I broke it on a pair of Jordans for my baby brother. So as the eldest child, there's a driver in me to want to protect and lead. And I think growing up in the professional kind of capacity and being an operations manager and learning how to lead teams and support employees, I just kept seeing a need in different spaces for HR done right, done with heart. Someone who really was people focused. I wanted to be able to bring a level of humanity back into human resources. And, I kind of fostered this philosophy of Halo. I wanted to do HR with honesty. I wanted to be accountable in the policies and procedures that I was putting out there. I wanted to do all things with love because I think you can bring love into whatever space. I mean, it's you. You got to love what you do. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And then I wanted to bring opportunities. I think positive psychology is so important, not just in human resources, but in the world today. And kept hearing a lot of no's in the industry. And so I started veering off from legacy views and I call it legacy views because I don't like to use the word old HR programs. Is the legacy views, a lot of people ask me, how do you define yourself? I'm a divergent HR leader. I don't live in the rearview mirror. I focus forward. I'm out here building next practices, not best practices. And so all that to say that just really excited to be able to share this message today with your listeners.
Thank you. Well, love having you. And just like to fill everybody in kind of like our backstory before we like get into all the nitty gritty, because like every chance I get to just like tell the
They want to
story,
know. The people want to
know.
know.
I just really want to tell the story because like I feel like how we reconnected is something like you see like on TV or in a movie, but when it actually happens to you, like it's just like wow, like really when it's time for you to realign with people, like the world will create the right situation and the right place for that to happen. So I think it was was it last summer that we did the
I think so.
alignable networking event? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so we
Mm-hmm.
both attended this networking event and there was I want to say between like 600 and like 1,000 attendees at this event. That was crazy part number
Virtual.
one. Okay.
Virtual.
It
Yeah.
was a virtual networking event. The amount of attendees were insane. And they had us like in and out of these different like little Zoom rooms. And they only gave us like 2 to 3 minutes to just like connect with the person. So right away, we just started chopping it up like da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. We literally only had time to just like swap contact information.
Mm-hmm.
So then, like,
Mm-hmm.
fast forward a week or two later, we reconnect, and she's telling me she's from the Bronx. I'm like, so am I. Like, I grew up in Hunts Point. And then she's like, well, I went to 48. And I'm like, you did? And then I'm like, come to think of it, there was literally like one Vivian that I knew, and we were really cool. I was like, but you had like curly hair at the time, and you had, I think it was like gray or like clear glasses. And she's like, and we're just like, what are the chances that like we reconnect in that weird way? And I just want to give a quick shout out to Miss Cruz because
Miss
she's also part of our
Cruz.
story. And yes, I know I have to come
Is
back to
the
the Bronx to see
glue.
you. I'm gonna come. I promise. I'm
Woo!
gonna come, Miss Cruz.
We're on our way. We're on our way.
Yes, and I know she'll probably be smiling from ear to ear just to see us
Mm-hmm.
like on that platform. So that was just my little tidbit that I wanted to share with you guys. And I never get
I
tired of
love
that
it.
story because it always just kind of brings a smile to my face and it's cool.
And I remember when we popped into the first breakout room, I remember your glasses, like your face, like the outline just I was so drawn to you and you felt so familiar. I was like, I know this face. Like I know, I know, I know this feeling. Like I know this has been, so it was definitely one of those things. And I'm just glad to be here with you. Like
Me
yeah.
too.
And we've been trying to collab ever since.
Yes, but we
Here
we
we
made
are.
it happen. I've just like in the last couple of years, I just really came to believe that timing is everything, and when two people are supposed to just like do something, like everything will just work in that favor, and that's okay. Like I'm in this for the long haul, so it's all well and good,
Hey.
So our topic today is leadership presence. So can you just expound a little bit more on that? Because you were really excited about it. And when we were talking about it, I was like, yeah, girl, yes, we can do this all day.
So I thank you for just sharing this space with me to kind of like my spirit has been definitely pushing this idea of leadership presence and wanting to share in just we are all kind of in this space of transformation, right? And
Mhm.
you said it. We're two Latinas from the Bronx, Hunts Point and Lafayette on the six. Like
How you
people,
doing?
I tell people, how you doing? I usually tell people I'm from Puerto Rico, and they're like, "Well, you don't look like J Lo." And I'm like, "Bro, we come in all different shapes and sizes,
And
like
flavors.
it's
Okay.
and flavors, right?" So, and I feel like over the years in the different places that I have like kind of been put in, whether it was in retail management or whether it was here in the States. Because when I moved out to the States, like I looked different, I sounded different, my style, my vibe was just like really different. And then I moved into the Midwest and I stuck out like a sore thumb. So then I started practicing how to neutralize my accent because I thought that by neutralizing my accent, that made me sound more professional. And so I
Wow.
have this love-hate relationship with this ideology of leadership presence. And I think as an executive leader, it's important for you, as you're modeling the future for
Mm-hmm.
those coming, behind you, for those who are following in your steps, for those of you who you are opening doors for the next person. This world for too long has pushed their narrative of what they feel that leadership presence looks like. They have pushed their narrative and this white supremacist views of what professionalism needs to look like, what a professional needs to sound like.
Yeah.
And I feel like every time I show up in a space fully me and all my Latinaisms and all my neurodivergency and all of my, leadership and in all of my power, that I'm helping redefine what leadership presence looks like, sounds like in different spaces. And I feel like if people aren't hearing you, if they're not able to hear you, you're in the wrong space.
Yeah, that's key. I mean, I guess touching on that, are there like kind of any identifying markers that you see on your end that can kind of guide someone to say, yeah, this may not be the right space for you because of what you just said?
Yeah. So I think two things. The highlight or the positive side is you can build leadership presence by adding to your arsenal. So every tool, every skill set is essentially your like toolkit, right? And so
Yeah.
all of that kind of helps build you into the leader you are. And I think it's important to say that everyone's a leader in their own role, in their own capacity. Like you don't need to have a title of a leader to be a leader. So I'll say that. And then the second piece to that is when you start feeling that those things that make you special, unique, powerful, bright are the same things that people are nitpicking about you, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh, um, well, where are you from? Because your English is different. Or what did you mean by that? Like, the first time I got to Denver, they called the roof rough, like the rough. It sounds like
Rough.
rough, like ROU. Yeah, I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack from my Colorado fam. Love you. I've come to understand it. It is the rough now, like RUF. And so I just think it's like, I don't know if it's regionalisms or it's like every culture has the way that we express ourselves.
Right.
But I've been told that, the mannerisms, and I've had to learn how to tone down. And then I'm at the stage in both my life and professional career that if someone tells you to tone it down or turn down, you're like, turn down for what? Like, no, like, turn down for what? This is me. And I think so that, all that to say, when I am most myself and most comfortable in my power, in my voice, in my capacity,
Hmm.
is when I build meaningful relationships, is when I have a team that's like, we're happy to be with you. Like we're happy
Yeah.
to follow you because there's transparency. They're not like, you're not showing up in this stuffy kind of, thank you for being here today. Like,
Like a
no,
robot,
like
like,
that's just,
yes.
oh man, Siri already got her job. Ain't nobody trying to take her job. Like we're good. We don't need two Siris out here. Like, thanks for, and I think so the question that you asked me, and I get so excited. So thank you for helping guide me back to
No, it's
the
fine.
question is like, if you feel in your spirit that you need to, that there are things about you that you feel like you need to change, but they're so a part of your character that they help you shine. I think that's really when you have to take inventory and take temperature and assess if the space that you're in is really, if the organization that you're in has really fostered a culture of belonging, and if
Mhm.
they are what they say they are. Because I think a lot of organizations are, really highlighting, equity, diversity, inclusion,
Oh,
belonging,
yeah.
accessibility, right? Up until it brushes up with something that makes them uncomfortable.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like, hey, we want to hire, they make you fill out all these EO and all these questions of like, do you have a disability? And when you say yes, like, they don't call you back. So like,
Exactly.
okay.
Or sometimes they don't really know what it's going to actually entail. It's like, oh, it looks good on paper until, you're confronted with a real life situation and you're like, did I just bite off more than I can chew? Or what's the quickest way we can, just kind of shove this person on and maybe find someone else? But maybe that's just me. I don't know.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. It's like you feel, especially in the corporate world, you feel like you need to put yourself into this mold in order to be seen. And we are out here dismantling that left and right. Like it may look uncomfortable and it may look messy and unorganized.
Yeah.
And yes, like the whole, when you invite a whole person to come to work,
You're inviting the whole
they're
person.
coming to work. They're coming to work. So yeah, I think for me that speaks in my neurodivergency is there are times that when I get really excited, my thoughts run faster than my mouth can carry my thoughts. And like that's for me. So I'll start somewhere in Canada in our conversation and down in Venezuela or whatever. Like
It's fine. I mean, I don't know. I enjoy like conversations like that sometimes because like it just you get to see how things correlate. You learn more about a person, and sometimes it just doesn't hurt to just be turned on to new information because a lot of the times you don't know what you're supposed to know until someone presents something to you in a different way. And that's just one of my mantras, themes of life these days. Like just don't cancel anything out right away because you just never know when you're gonna need that tool. You're gonna remember it and it can, benefit you. So that's awesome. Just, don't worry about all that. You showing up as you. That's the name of the
hey,
show. Just being you. We're
just
celebrating
be
all
you.
the things that make you amazing, gifts, talents, and skills. Because we don't take enough time to just celebrate those things. It's always just like, oh, I should be this or it should look like that. And it's like, no, you're enough. Like, do what you
You
do
are enough.
best.
Mm.
So I love
Mhm.
that. So, with that
Mhm.
also being said, how do you feel that your neurodivergence takes shape in your leadership? Like, how does that help you lead?
Yeah. The more that I've learned about ADHD and I feel like I'm also exploring um being on the spectrum as certain noises completely distracted and tear me. I've had to learn how to accommodate. So on the positive side, I can do multiple things or I can like try and tackle multiple things, which people will argue you don't get anything done when you try to do multiple things. But I think I work at a faster pace.
Mm,
And then the shadow piece to that is sometimes I have to temper my surroundings and I have to kind of be very mindful, like wearing headphones, even though I might not be listening to anything, but that helps me really tune in and focus. When I'm in meetings, I have to minimize my other browser so I'm not distracted or like kind of tempted to veer
yeah.
into oh that email. But and then the other shadow side is like when team members invite me out to like a lunch date or a dinner date, it's really hard for me to focus on what it is that they're saying because my ADHD is an onset of PTSD from childhood
Mm,
trauma. And so I'm hyper vigilant. So it's really hard for me to give people that attention.
hmm
However, in the last year and a half, as I've spoken up more and more about being neurodivergent, about exploring you know, being on the spectrum, it has been so encouraging and empowering to hear numbers of individuals who have said, I've had to mask. I've never felt really accepted. Like starting to learn new terms through affinity groups and employee resource groups has been incredible. And so from a
Amazing.
leadership perspective, thank you. From a leadership perspective, I think it really just helps me connect and reminds me that I have an awesome responsibility as a person of color, as someone who is neurodivergent, as someone who is responsible for building policies and procedures to do better and to be
Mhm.
better.
I love that. So like when you're saying that, I'm just like I see you like as the Olivia Pope of HR, right?
Ah!
You're like the fixer. So when you're sitting down with these CEOs and these different companies, like just paint me the picture of how you're showing up in there. Like, yes, people, I'm about to set
Yeah.
up straight. Like, give me a day of what it's like to be you in like
Oh my gosh. I love this. So on a good day where on a good day where I feel like I can bring my whole self. I mean, I've had conversations with CEO where they've asked me like, and how is X, Y, and Z going? And I'm like, ain't nothing but a chicken wing. Like I feel like really confident in my stuff. Like I'm good. When I have time to prep and I have time in between meetings, like I feel like I'm my strongest self. And I think leaders, so C-suite, chief financial officers, chief operating officers, CEOs, we're all humans. And I think that the part about human resources that's so commonly overlooked is that we're all going through something.
yeah.
So a part of my personality kind of helps disarm and rebuild. And so I'm able to communicate with leaders at a different level. I'm able to not make them feel bad if they're missing a particular policy or practice and say, we don't know what we don't know. Like we're here,
Yeah.
we're going to get this done, we're going to get this taken care of. And so it's like, it's a reintroduction of a possible experience that they had where HR was rigid and HR was inflexible and HR did not allow for novelties, as opposed to now when I'm introducing HR working with a client. And I've worked with clients in industries as small as, mom and pop, shops that do hair and or that a small, family owned dental practice to organizations as big as 25K headcount. And I think the commonality is to keep reintroducing HR myself as a novel, divergent approach to building relationships. And where it's landed really well is organizations that are really committed to doing it differently, that are really committed to building novel practices and showing up in that space, right?
Yeah.
They're like, yes, we want someone who does HR different. We don't want, the policy brigade or anything like that. No, we're good. We're good. We want it done differently. And also being able to say that doesn't mean that we're, not in alignment with state and federal guidelines. It's just being able to communicate it in a way where it connects with people and it makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
yeah.
So what are some of your tips that I guess like employers can encourage people to take more to take on more leadership? Because I feel like that's also one thing that when I was like in my own like workforce experience that wasn't always championed fully or with an intention. Like it was nice to say, but then once that person kind of showed up in that leadership role, it was like, no, 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 no. Let's rewind. Let's take it back a bit. So what are some like
Mm-hmm.
good practical ways to like encourage, from employer to employee to like, yeah, you can do this and step up and lead. It's okay.
Yeah. I think anyone interested in growing into, a leadership position, a supervisor, manager, director, uh, C-suite role, um, learning how to connect. And I think that that's being able to practice communication, so effective verbal and written communication. And effective doesn't mean, so let's just stop right there. Effective communication doesn't mean that it needs to sound like Siri. Like you can still be effective in a space in an environment, where that presence is accepted, like that you can put your own flavor to it. That's what I'm going to say. So effective communication is number one. And two, don't stop learning. I'm sitting here, I've got like 12 books in front of me and like every little bit in piece. Again, ADD, I'll start one and not finish one, but every little bit and piece of them, I've kind of read a bit, you know what I mean? So just keep learning, implement those learning techniques, prepare. So prepare your communications, prepare for your meetings so that you know what you're walking into, so that you can confidently share in and contribute to the conversation. But if all that fails, if you've got the heart in the right place, the heart for the people, people will follow you.
Yeah,
People
that
will
is,
want to follow you.
yeah, that's true. Cause it just kind of reminds me of how we all have influence and we just don't take ownership in that influence enough. So it's nice to hear someone say, no, just take charge of it and take up space. Because that was one of my other
Oh,
themes last year. It was taking up space. I'm gonna take up all the damn space.
yes. I mean, 100%. I think there have been both times where I've made myself small, where I felt like I had to make myself small because I just felt like, I look different, I sound different.
Yeah.
Um, but the more that I kept showing up as myself, and I mean, I've spent over 20 years in HR and have grown in my toolbox, but there are still things that I don't know. There are many things about human resource policies, laws, practices that are still evolving.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the honesty and halo really like shines through. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know something that I don't know. I'm actually going to be
Yeah.
accountable and say, I may not be an expert in this space, but I'm going to go tag in and learn up on it. Or I'm going to tag in someone who is an expert in that space. And so that's where the honesty and that, kind of radical transparency is really important. In alignment of who you are. I think good people, well, let me not go down that road because I think, I go down that road. I'm just going to say, if your heart is in the right place and, you want to impact change, the key to that is staying focused, which is sometimes hard for an unfocused person.
Yeah. It's just hard in general. Like we just have so many like external things that we're competing against. So like even if you're not neurodivergent, like it's just like, bro, like it's hard out here.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's
it's
hard out here. It's rough. Rough.
it is. And there's just no easy way about it. It's just, kind of give yourself grace, give the other person
Yeah.
grace, and just try to figure out how to work together and get along,
Mm-hmm.
we can all
Mm-hmm.
do it. It's just it's tough, but where there's a will, there's a way. And it can all be done. Just a little patience and focus, as you say. Focus, people.
Mm-hmm.
Focus.
Oh my gosh. I posted yesterday or the other day on LinkedIn the little engine that could. And
Oh yeah.
it did all it was just a little engine. And it's I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And sometimes that's the driver for the entire week is like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it, but I think I can. I think I
Yeah.
can. I think I can show up with that positive mindset. I mean, and don't give up. Don't give
Yes.
up because no is just next opportunity. And I got to tell you, if I can testify right here, right now, that has been every door that closes, next opportunity. Let's go. Keep it
Yes,
pushing.
I love that. So how do you keep your positive, upbeat personality up? Because that's one thing I can say has never changed about you. Like the only thing that's changed is that we've got a little older, but like
Mm, mm,
that's it.
the
You still look
grays.
good,
Mm.
you know?
We do look good. My niece says that I'm a vampire, which I love her for that. She's also probably petitioning for a laptop, so I don't know. She funny. Um, you know what? I love that. Thank you. Thank you. I accept. I've gotten into the stage of my life where I'm not gonna shy away, and when someone gives me a compliment, be like, "Oh no, no, let's take up that space." Thank you. I accept. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
I think um, the emotional resilience is what drives the positivity for me. Having um, having survived some really deep stuff gave me an outlook on life that it doesn't matter how dark it gets, if I don't keep moving, that darkness will consume me. And I'm always like, I gotta get ahead of it. Now, granted, I do meditate. I have an amazing therapist that I share in my life. So just to kind of keep that temperature check. And I'm always trying to learn new tools. But yesterday was a day that I was feeling really, really down. I had dinner and a picnic, and I just sat on the grass. You gave me some really great advice earlier this week about hug a tree, like get grounded into the earth. And part of it is knowing that you have every, like, you are equipped with every tool, resource that you need to make good in this life. If you need to sharpen it, if you need to change the color of a tool, if you need to trade a tool because you no longer need it, I think that is such a valuable thing to remember is you got what you need to be successful. You just need to believe in yourself. I think I can.
Yeah, like that was Thomas the Tank Engine, right?
Yes,
Okay.
it
I
was.
just wanted to make sure I wasn't making the wrong reference.
Yeah, well, where we're from, he's Tomas.
Yes,
Tomas.
Thomas. You're right.
Tomas.
Just had to make sure because I be pulling out my references and my husband is like, no, babe, wrong movie, wrong time period. Try again. I'm like, whoops, well, it fit. You understood it, so I guess it worked.
Take the win. Just take the win.
It's quite all right. So I always ask my guests, because part of like one of my many names is I like to have fun. I have my own personal fun bus. So what are some of the things that you like to do for fun and that you kind of incorporate within your business?
So right now, our email signature has that in honor of our team's well-being, that we kicked off summer hours. I'm looking to the left because I see it open. We kicked off summer hours from like June 1st to September 1st so that our teams could engage and enjoy in like pools, summer. And so I'm a huge proponent in time off and respecting and creating those healthy boundaries. I love this question about what I do for fun because it is really just sitting back. Sometimes it's a busy weekend where you have like planned like fun. And then sometimes it's also okay to just like do nothing and like Netflix take the wheel, right?
Yes.
Like just take the wheel, Netflix. So for me, it's both. I love to spend time with my pups and get grounded in the earth. Might like shopping a little too much than I should. And lastly, when I'm not doing those things, I'm watching something on Netflix to just let, my mind go on autopilot. But yeah, I love that. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Because it's like, and then also just from my own experience, just from being in dentistry for such a long time, one of my takeaways from that experience was that I dedicated myself so much to dentistry that I stopped having fun, and I didn't realize that I was no longer having fun, period, until it was like too late. So it just kind of became like a conscious thing, like, okay, I know I need to do this thing to like generate income, but it doesn't always have to be wrapped up in that. So just kind of giving myself that space to just be human, have fun, and be okay with just having fun. Like, it's okay. Like, I don't know, maybe it was the New York mindset where you kind of always have to be on the go, and half the time you don't even know why you're going, you're just going. So I like to ask that to everyone just as a point of like reflection, because maybe you think you're having fun and you're really not.
Yeah, I think when we grow up, we forget like how much of a kid we are still. I feel like and I feel like I'm a big kid, right? I'm still a kid. I'm bigger. I'm like taller. I still have, and I like, Delia, seriously, we have an outing planned for our next quarter, and it's at the Boondocks. And Boondocks here in Colorado is like, they got go-karts. It's like putt, and we're having our strategic planning meeting at this place while we're gonna play putt because it's summer. So let's get out, right? No, why do we need to be confined in like walls and meetings? If it's not raining, let's go out and get some vitamin D. Like, let's just get some fresh air. And so I just think remembering that we are like, we're grown, we can buy things now that we're over 21 that we couldn't before, right? And we are still kids. Like, I still enjoy. How many of us are out there posting pictures of going to the Barbie movie? That should just tell you everything you need to
Yes.
know about keeping that kid alive in you wherever you go, whether it's in your leadership presence, whether it's at a board meeting or a union meeting or wherever that might be. Just keep that kid alive, because that is the root of the connection to who you are.
You hit that nail on the head. That was one thing my therapist told me. She was like, girl, what did you like to do when you were a kid? Let's start there. Why don't you revisit some of those things? And I'm pretty sure you'll come back to life. And lo and behold, she was correct, because then I spent like 2 weeks with, I think it was like a spa pass or something, but I was doing like 2 weeks and trying out every exercise you could possibly imagine, and I was having the time of my life. So yes, being a kid, it's important. And I also say I am a huge kid. Like, I will try to have fun wherever I'm at. Like, when we're in person, you'll probably find me somewhere like toot 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 dancing. And it's like, there's no music, but I'm just like, doop, doop, doop. I'll make a quick song up in my head. And it's like, you want to talk about it? I'm like, no, mind your business. We're good over here.
Don't interrupt me when I'm tutoring myself. Like, excuse me.
I'm like, this is called living, people. This is called living. So last question before I let you go. What are some of your big takeaways from like your whole journey? Because you're an entrepreneur, you're changing the face of HR. And what do you want your legacy to be?
Leave the space better than you found it. I think that's the root of it. Like, whether I'm working with an organization who may not have had an updated handbook, or I'm working with an organization who really wants to build out their organizational culture, they want to scale, leave a place better than you found it. That's like my moral responsibility.
Yes. Hey, keeping it simple. I like it. So where can people contact you for some HR advice, for some techniques? Where do you hang out most on social?
I love that. So if you're an employee or if you're a candidate looking to get into your next job, hit us up at support@optowork.com. We are also on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on Insta. I opened up Twitter the other day and I almost got scared because it says X now. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I'm just letting you know, like, my boomer is kicking in. And you won't find me on Twitter. Sadly, I'm not on Twitter. But
It's
if
okay.
you're
Twitter's
an
a beast.
employer, yeah, I don't know. If you're an employer looking to beef up your practices or get connected for some advice, yeah, support@optowork.com. We're here to help. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this journey. And I just love you for this. I love you for what you're doing, and I absolutely am sending you all the positive vibes. And Miss Cruz, thanks for bringing us together in the 5th grade.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for her, then I don't know. She definitely played like a huge role in my life. Like, I didn't even realize she was the one that got me to start journaling, and that kind of traveled with me throughout life, and just the impact that she's had on me and like my own family. Because I was convinced her and my mother were having like a secret love affair, because every time I came home, one was asking about the other, and I'm like, do you want to call each other? Like,
well, let me tell you. Well, it was a multiple. What is it? Those multiple relationships called those polyamorous.
polyamorous.
Because Miss Cruz was all up in my house for dinner and like all this other stuff. So I'm telling you, she did it right. Educators, like, we do not pay our teachers enough. Okay, but that's a conversation for another day. But as an educator, as an inspiration, yeah, she's definitely a pillar. And I think I model a lot of my leadership traits from her. And when I think about the person who inspired me, not to say that my parents were hard and that they didn't support me, I feel like my parents did the best that they could with what they had. But when someone asked me who was the most inspirational or influential person, it's Miss Cruz all day. Miss Cruz was the first person to tell me, like, And when you're in fifth grade, you're like what, 7 or 8 years old, or I
Yeah,
don't even know.
around there.
But she was the first person to look me in my eyes and tell me, you can be anything you want
Yeah.
to be. And I remember the tone in which she said it. I remember the day she said it and the impact it had in my life when you had one person that believed in you.
Yeah. Yeah. She kind of did something similar to that for me as well, because I always had this thing about public speaking, and like at our 8th grade graduation, I was just like marbles coming out of my mouth, and she was like, "No, we're gonna practice." And I was like, "Practice." So the marbles started coming out, and she was like, "No, Nana, you know how to speak. You just need to believe that you know how to speak. You got this." And I was just like, "Okay." And then when I was actually on the stage, I looked at her, and she was just like, breathe, breathe. And then I took a breath, and then the rest was history. And then my mom was like, "Oh my God, I never seen you speak like that. You sounded so eloquent." And I was like, "Oh, I did?" In my mind, I was just like flipping all the way out. But she
Mm.
really did anchor me in that. And yeah, I don't think I ever told her. So there you go, Miss Cruz. That was the impact that you
That
left
one's
on
for
us
you.
two girls from the Bronx.
Look at us now. Oh, goodness.
Yes. So I can't wait for her to share. But I want to thank you again for hopping on this show and just being part of my little community that I'm building, and just sharing experiences, and just, letting other people know that it's okay to be you. And just, thank you for sharing your story and all your wonderfulness, and you're amazing, you're beautiful. And I'm just so glad that we really got to connect. And this is just one of many collaborations, because the things that I say and that I write down, they come to fruition. And I know,
Yeah,
you've got my back, I've got yours. So just thank you again
100%.
for gracing the Just Be
Yeah.
You podcast. And on that note, guys, thank you for listening. We'll be back next Friday for an all new episode. We're winding down in the episodes. We're gonna go into a fall break soon. So there's a couple left. There's a couple of episodes left in the season. But if no one's told you today, always remember that you are strong, you are worthy, and you are enough. And I will see you next week with another guest on another hot episode. That's all for now. Bye.